Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. Are there hoaxes on America's current political scene? And if so, what are they? And who perpetrated them? President Donald Trump says that there are hoaxes galore. Climate change, he said during his 2016 campaign for the presidency, is a hoax. The sexual accusations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, he said, were a hoax. The impeachment against him, he declared, was a hoax. And during his presidential campaign in 2016, he declared that the unemployment rate published once a month by the Labor Department is one of, quote, the biggest hoaxes in politics. More important, Donald Trump claims that the Mueller investigation of Russian involvement in our 2016 election was a hoax designed to unseat him from power. He has claimed that the coronavirus is a Democratic Party hoax designed to make him look bad, to kill the economy, and to use that failed economy to beat him in the upcoming November presidential election. And he now claims that the June 2020 scandal about Russians paying a bounty of up to $100,000 per head for the Taliban to kill Americans in Afghanistan is a hoax. Again, a hoax designed to make him look bad. But none of these things is a hoax. The Russians were heavily involved in our 2016 presidential election and slipped Donald Trump and WikiLeaks the Hillary Clinton and John Podesta emails that won the 2016 election for the Donald. The coronavirus has killed 130,000 Americans so far and counting. And the evidence is overwhelming that the president was briefed several times on Russia's bonus incentives to the Taliban to kill Americans and that Trump ignored it. But there is a real hoax in America right now, and his name is Donald Trump. Donald Trump claims he is making America great again, but that's not true. He is making America small again. He is carrying out the wishes of both the Russians and their allies, the Chinese. He has taken over an America that was the leader of the Western world, and he is making America irrelevant and a laughingstock. Take the coronavirus. Our handling of the coronavirus is the clumsiest and most ineffective in the world. Donald Trump has shrugged off the responsibility of leadership. He has said roughly 6 times that the virus will simply disappear. He has refused to make testing a national priority. He has said, what's the point of testing? All you do is increase your number of cases. In other words, all you do is generate new numbers that make Donald Trump look bad. The result of this leadership failure, this leadership idiocy, is that America has had more coronavirus deaths than any other nation in the world. Yes, more than China or India, nations with more than 3 times our population. In fact, our death toll is higher than those from the next 4 countries combined: England, Russia, Brazil, and India. Why? Colossal incompetence. Our country is now the greatest coronavirus infection factory in the world. Roughly 25,000 Americans like you and me die of the coronavirus every month. In just 2 months, the virus kills more Americans than are killed by auto accidents in a full year. And in just 3 months, the coronavirus kills more Americans than the normal flu kills in a year. The virus is advancing in 40 of our 50 states. 20 states are reporting the highest totals of coronavirus cases since the pandemic began, and Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, Nevada, and Arizona are setting records for coronavirus hospitalizations. That's hospitalizations, not cases. It's not a fiction created by testing and exaggerated by the mainstream media. It's a life-threatening reality. According to the Associated Press, coronavirus cases are surging in particular among the young, among people 18 to 49 years old. And the virus is getting worse every day. Why? Because Donald Trump is not a real president. He is a hoax. Look, the instant the coronavirus appeared in Korea, the Korean president, Jae-in, pulled together the heads of his biggest biotech firms and ordered them to develop a test for the coronavirus and mass produce that test immediately. Then he instituted a crash program of testing, and he isolated anyone carrying the virus. He quarantined the carriers so they could not infect others. The result? South Korea has had fewer than 300 coronavirus deaths. Think about that. Less than 300. We've had over 130,000. South Korea's death toll has been the size of a flea. Our death toll has ballooned to the size of an elephant, which means that if we'd ramped up testing as soon as our first coronavirus cases had appeared in March, and if we had achieved a result like the ones the Koreans achieved, we could have saved 128,000 American lives. Or to put it differently, Donald Trump's gross incompetence has killed 128,000 Americans. No wonder Kurt Bardella, the past spokesperson for two key right-wing media outlets, Breitbart News and the Daily Caller, calls Donald Trump's current series of rallies the Make America Sick Again tour. Countries like South Korea, Vietnam, Taiwan, and New Zealand have kept their death tolls down to nearly 1/400th of ours. Yes, for every death in these countries, we've had nearly 400. That is the result of Donald Trump's feckless coronavirus leadership. Leadership that constitutes a giant and deadly hoax. There have been other consequences to Donald Trump's phony policies. Donald Trump has single-handedly destroyed the Western Alliance and NATO by acting in every international meeting like the disruptive student in the classroom and insulting every ally we have, then by throwing insane press conferences that upstage the meetings. And Donald Trump has cemented America's new position as an irrelevant nation through his mishandling of the coronavirus. He has shown that when hit with a crisis, America can no longer be counted on to come up with the best solution. In fact, Donald Trump has shown that America now faces crises with lies, idiocy, and narcissistic delusions. In other words, in a crunch, it is best to ignore America, which is what the Europeans are doing. No wonder when EU leaders held a virtual summit June 19th on a coronavirus recovery plan, they didn't invite Donald Trump. And when they opened Europe to visitors from 15 countries after the travel lockdowns of the first wave of coronavirus, America was on the list of countries whose citizens were not allowed to set foot on European soil. Yes, Americans were banned from Europe. Why? Under Donald Trump, we have become the super spreader of the coronavirus to the world. We have become the world's coronavirus infection factory. To repeat, we have had more deaths than any other country on the planet, more than the 4 runner-up nations combined. Then there's our relationship with Russia. Russia and China are partners in crime. They are close allies. They share a common goal: destroying the Western Alliance and making the United States a minor power, clearing the deck so China and Russia can lead what China calls a new world order. And Donald Trump is China and Russia's best weapon. How? He works as Vladimir Putin's puppet. We talked about Trump's disassembly of the Western Alliance, a disassembly that has been one of the highest military goals of Putin and China. Then there's Trump's sudden withdrawal from Syria, a withdrawal that handed the entire Middle East to Putin on a platter. Right now, Vladimir Putin's troops and jets are fighting in Libya to expand on that Middle Eastern dominance and to gain a foothold on the southern shore of the Mediterranean Sea, the sea on which France, Italy, and Greece have ports, a body of water that up until now has been a European sea. What are we doing about the Russian play in Libya? Nothing. And there's our withdrawal of 9,000 troops from Germany, a withdrawal we announced without consulting the Germans. Another massive blow to NATO and to the Western Alliance, a move that proves that we aren't trustworthy and will not stand up for our allies. That German withdrawal is another giant gift to Vladimir Putin. It weakens NATO's ability to resist military invasions like the ones Russia has pulled off in the Crimea and in the Ukraine. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin is threatened by America's intelligence agencies. So Donald Trump has once again acted as Putin's lieutenant. He has made our 17 intelligence agencies his personal enemies and has done everything he can to undermine them. Then there's what the Russians call active measures, a form of war in which a shot is never fired. China and Russia are using these active measures in a soft power war to stomp America into insignificance without firing a shot. Donald Trump has done his best to stop America's defense against Russia's interference in our elections. He is also discrediting the Mueller report, which outlines the war without bullets that Russia is waging against us, the soft war with which Russia assaulted us in the election of 2016. And Trump has stopped all significant protection from Russian interference in the election of 2020. While Russia and China are using cyber, information, and commercial war to defeat us without bullets and bayonets, Donald Trump is pouring billions, hundreds of billions of dollars into the sort of weapons that would have won World War II but are less relevant today. Weapons that are powerless against what Putin calls active measures. Weapons like the F-35, a plane that costs what 10 Russian or Chinese fighter jets cost. A plane that literally can't take off if its encrypted broadband connection is cut. In other words, Russian hypersonic missiles can be approaching American cities. You can be a pilot determined to intercept them. You can jump into your seat. You can lower your canopy. And you can be ready to take to the skies. But your plane's engines will not start if their broadband connectivity is to a secure channel is cut. That broadband is provided by satellites, and the Chinese have entire military squadrons with missiles aimed at taking our military satellites out of the skies, thus wiping out our Air Force's capabilities and wiping out our ability to even get our planes into the air. What was President Trump doing when the news headlines erupted on Russian bounties to the Taliban for American deaths? He was trying to get Russia back into the G7 and was reportedly pushing to arrange a visit by Vladimir Putin to the White House. He was doing Vladimir Putin's dirty work. Since Donald Trump is now a tool of Moscow, several European heads have given up on the United States and have opened their own direct negotiations with Russia. One of them is France's President Emmanuel Macron. Macron is now talking about a partnership with Moscow that creates a region of, quote, cooperation and peace that stretches from Lisbon to Vladivostok. Then there's Donald Trump's gullibility. The dictator who runs North Korea convinced Donald Trump that he'd done what no other previous president had ever been able to achieve. Trump was certain he had convinced the North Koreans to give up their nuclear weapons. Then North Korea's dictator for life, Kim Jong-un, continued to develop and test new missiles. Missiles, some of which are designed to hit American cities with, guess what? Nuclear weapons. Fortunately, Donald Trump does recognize the Chinese threat, but because of his monumental incompetence, it is unlikely that he will ever do anything concrete about China's patient attempt to take us down. For example, President Trump made a trade deal with China that he felt took a giant step towards solving our China problem. In reality, some claim that the deal was just a giant purchase order for things China would have bought anyway. Look, Donald Trump claims that previous presidents like Barack Obama made a mess of everything. But it's Donald Trump who makes the messes. Donald Trump claims that he won the presidency in 2016 despite 3 million fraudulent votes and a rigged system. When Trump impaneled a Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity to investigate those 3 million phony votes, it turned out they didn't exist. But it's Donald Trump who lost an election by 3 million votes, yet got into the presidency. How? Through a rigged system called the Electoral College. A number of Trump's critics have said that every insult Donald Trump dishes out is either a projection or a confession. In other words, Donald Trump imagines that his own worst qualities do not exist in him, but are alive and kicking in someone else. For example, Donald Trump called Ted Cruz lying Ted, but it's Donald Trump who tells 12 lies every day and has told close to 20,000 lies since he entered the White House. It's Donald Trump who called Hillary Clinton criminal Hillary, but according to one of my contacts who was in the New Jersey police while Donald Trump was heavily invested in 2 Atlantic City, New Jersey casinos and was helicoptering to New Jersey all the time, it's Donald Trump who was working with the mob and is actually criminal. And Donald Trump accuses Joe Biden's son of corruption for his work with the Ukrainians and the Chinese. But it's Donald Trump whose private business has deals in 31 countries. Not 2, 31. Deals managed by his sons. Deals that benefit enormously from Donald Trump's possession of the presidency. It is Donald Trump who is corrupt. North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-un pulled the wool over Donald Trump's eyes, and other autocrats have learned that they can lead Donald Trump around by the nose simply by catering to his ego, catering to his narcissistic delusions. 2 of those autocrats are Vladimir Putin and Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. What makes Trump so gullible? When Donald Trump met with medical doctors over the coronavirus cases, he said they were astonished. He said, they asked me how I know so much. They said I should have been a doctor. In fact, Trump knows nothing about the coronavirus at all. He has proven that with the policies that have killed 128,000 Americans. There's a reason that Donald Trump is able to call himself a stable genius. He believes every thought he has is a flash of astonishing insight, and he surrounds himself with yes-men who tell him he is brilliant. No wonder that when he suggested that we all be injected with bleach to get rid of the coronavirus, he looked over at 2 experts, Anthony Fauci and Deborah Birx, expecting to see looks of stunned admiration in their faces. Stunned admiration is what he gets from his team of full-time bootlickers. In fact, unending admiration is what he demands from his team of professional praisers. Then Trump has yet another way of deceiving himself. If something succeeds, he takes credit for it, whether he had anything to do with it or not, like the record-breaking economy left to him by Barack Obama. And if something fails, he blames it on someone else, even if the idea originated with him. This way, in his mind, Donald Trump is a winner 100% of the time. A man who, unlike you and me, never has a failure. No wonder that when Donald Trump is asked what sort of research or data he's relying on to make a decision, he points to his head to indicate that the answers are all in his miraculous brain. But the head that Donald Trump points to is utterly devoid of knowledge, except the knowledge it takes to pull off a scam, the knowledge it takes to be a con man. There is a reason you've never read about Trump's track record in grammar school, high school, and college. He has threatened every school he's ever attended with lawsuits if they reveal his grades or leak his transcripts. Judging from his performance in the Oval Office, those grades were C's, D's, and F's. Donald Trump calls anything that threatens him a hoax, but it's Donald Trump who rose to wealth by conning illegal alien workers, bankers, and real estate customers. It's Donald Trump who taught Don Jr. to sell empty apartments in the Trump Soho by claiming that 80% of the units were already sold when in fact only 20% had been sold. In other words, it's Donald Trump who taught his son that to be what Trump calls a winner, you have to be a liar. It's Donald Trump who created a phony university to scam the elderly and the young out of their wealth, to get them to max out their credit cards, to get them to apply for new ones, and to get them to max those new credit cards out in order to get supposed secrets to wealth that weren't secrets at all, to get Donald Trump's secrets to wealth when, in fact, Trump threw no secrets of his own into the pot. It's Donald Trump who was a hoax before he ever ran for president. And it's Donald Trump who is currently a hoax as the president of the United States. It's Donald Trump whose phony flimflams are reducing America to a second-rate nation. This is Howard Bloom, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for that infamous, sleazy, slimy, sneaky little off button. I think I got it.